Hey guys, welcome back. We're getting really close to finishing up this project. Just stick around and watch the next step.
Last thing you saw me do was spray primer over freshly welded areas that I ground down. I put some primer on because it was raining and I didn't want everything to start rusting. So today I'm gonna get the areas ready to put down some body filler. We're gonna smooth everything out, and the plan is to get everything ready for paint. So first thing, got a little orbital sender. I got one that runs off the air. The air ones are loud, and plus the compressor is loud, so I'm just gonna get away with using one of these. 80 grit paper, I'm gonna knock off some of the primer, and I'm gonna go a little further out from my seam, so that way I'll have smoother transition between the old original panel and the new panel. And same thing here and here. The metal has to be roughened up because the filler needs something to bite into. So if I were to just put some filler on a unprepped surface, once it dries I can just knock it right off. Now if I were to apply filler to this area, it's not gonna get knocked off. It's gonna stick, trust me, it will. Okay, so this is all done all the way down. This has been cleaned up. Try to be as thorough as possible. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have a small spots like this and that, but you know, small stuff is okay. Just as long as you don't have big areas that have not been scuffed up. So there are a lot of different body fillers that could be used. This is just what I have on hand. Dynatron, whatever. There's, as I said, a bunch of different ones. You can even go to your local auto parts store and get the Bondo brand. It'll work just fine. For a mixing surface, I've had this piece of glass for a few years, so that's what I use because it's easy to clean. You can just use a piece of cardboard that, you know, once you're done mixing, you can throw it away. So yeah, this is just my personal preference. I always take a paint stick and mix it up, especially if it's been sitting for a while. This one hasn't been sitting for too long, so I don't gotta be too thorough with mixing it. So, I mean, the area I'm working on isn't too big. You know, I just got 2 spots, so I don't need a ton of filler. All of my metal work is done, you know, to where it's I don't need to cake up a thick coat of body filler to fill some big valleys or anything. All of my substrate is pretty good. Let's start mixing. This is a hardener for the body filler. So when you mix it, you want to make sure that the color becomes uniform, meaning my body filler is gray and the hardener is red. There are also, I've seen blue and even green hardeners. Mix it all up real well until it all stays one color. No streaks of gray or anything like that. If you got a gray streak like you see right in this area right now, I don't know if you can see or not, that means that area is not mixed in, so it will not set up. It will not get hard. It'll just stay, you know, in a paste consistency, and that's not going to do you any good. So be very thorough when you mix. You want to follow the contour You have to work kind of fast because this stuff will set up, and once it will set, it'll be unworkable. Oh, by the way, forgot to add, before you apply any Bondo, any body filler, you have to wipe the area down, which I already did. I just didn't have the camera on at the time. And I can feel it's starting to set up already, so I better pick up the pace. I had some existing body filler right there. I just went over it. That's from a previous repair at some point. That was before I owned the car. So I can tie my new body filler into existing repair job. That's okay. Oh man, this is like really setting up. This is it. Yeah, see, it's starting to cake up, and I can actually just, yeah, it doesn't even stick to gloves.
Okay, I gave it about 20 minutes, and the filler is, yeah, it's set up. So I'm gonna use this orbital sander again to knock down most of this filler. So the first level of filler, especially once you knock it down, it'll reveal some areas. It'll show you if you have high spots in areas such as, like right here, I still got the filler around. However, some metal is popping through here, here, here. So that's how I know I got a high spot there. I'm gonna have to knock it down a bit. Like this transition right here is starting to take shape. I mean, there's a couple more high spots right here, down here. So, and that's why I just kind of roughly knocked down the first level of filler just to kind of see what's going on. Now, once I apply a second level, and I'm going to start knocking that down, I'm only going to use the orbital sander to knock down just the very top layer of the filler. And then I'm gonna do everything else by hand because I'm gonna try to get it perfect on the second layer. So, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes you have to apply a third level or layer of filler to make things perfect. I let the filler dry on my spreader on purpose because when you have a thick layer on, all you gotta do is you just bend the spreader and the filler come right off. However, in other areas where the filler level is kind of thin, it's a little harder. Well, yeah, this stuff's coming off because it's still got a little bit of a thickness to it. However, there's going to be other spots where the filler is real thin and it will bend and it will not pop off, just like this stuff's coming off right now. So I started knocking down some of the high spot just to show you. So I got a high spot right here. You can kind of see it's coming through. So all it is, you know, I'm gonna feel it, and I can actually feel it coming up. It's like a little bump. So okay, that feels good. I already worked some of the other spots. Put on a second coat of filler on. Hopefully this will be the last. I'm just gonna knock down the main imperfections in the filler, and then I'm gonna try to finish off some of the areas by hand while using a hand block with an 80 grit paper, and then I'll step it up to finer grit. So if I have to get into rounded edges like that, I just do it by hand. Just take a piece of sandpaper, fold it over, and yeah, just kind of use the contour of your finger as a you know, as a backing to get in there, put some pressure on some ridges right in that dip, and smooth them out. Always feel the area that you're working. Make sure that you're not digging a hole in the filler, and also, you know, if you can feel that you got a high spot, you're gonna try to knock it down. And as I said, if you got a flat area, you want to use a flat block, because that's what's gonna give you that flat surface in the end. But if you got an uneven surface like so, you can still get in there with the block. So right now, I'm still feeling a little bump right here, a little hump. So I'm gonna crisscross it. So that hump's not big, so I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to dig a hole. It's getting to be pretty good. Nice. This is perfect right in here. So right in this spot right here, I got a couple of high areas. There's a little ridge right here. I'm probably gonna end up knocking it down with a hammer, and I'm gonna go over this area again with a filler. Put some more filler on, just filled in a few imperfections here and there, and had to, as you saw, I had to tap down an area right here, so I had to refill that. We'll see how that works out. I start with 80 grit paper, and I like finishing off with either 180 or 220 preferably. And after everything is smooth, I'm gonna hit up all of the areas such as this one that's got deeper scratches from the 80 grit. You know, here, everywhere. I'm gonna go over all of these areas with 220. So I'm gonna smooth out these scratches because primer will have a hard time filling 80 grit paper scratches, but 220 is fine. I make sure that my surface is nice and flat, no bumps, no valleys, no hills, and also I have to feather out all of the edges so I have a very smooth transition between my filler and surface is going to get painted. So the filler work is all complete. Everything is nice and smooth, ready to accept some primer. The last step before we put the primer down is to get all of the dust blown off. Out. So this is the primer I'm going to be using, especially if you're doing a smaller project and you don't have to do a lot of high build primer. Something like this works fine. I've been using this primer for smaller projects for years and it works great. I think it's about like $3 or so for a can, and it doesn't have to be this exact brand. You know, there's others you can buy, but anyways, this is just the one I use. When you lay down, don't do this. What you want to do is pull the trigger. Well, I guess, you know, you push the button and you just you keep moving, you don't stop. And you'll occasionally get bugs, but that's okay. We'll be sending this down anyways. You normally give it about 2, maybe 3 coats, and then you're good. Guys, thank you for sticking around. Now, we're getting ready to wrap up this project, so we just have one more video left in this series, and that's going to be paint, which will be in the next video that I will release in 2 to 3 days. In the meanwhile, hit subscribe button. If you have any questions or want to suggest some things that you want me to work on, let me know in the comments, and I'd love to hear from you. See you again.